Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I am going to tell you about the evolution of different Unix and Linux flavors. In order to understand how the different Unix and Linux flavors evolved, we need to go back a little bit in history. The Unix operating system was introduced first, and later the Linux operating system was introduced. Now, let me start with how the Unix operating system evolved. Now, for this, we need to go back in time to the 1960s. So, let me write also a bit here about what I'm going to tell you in this presentation on the evolution of Unix and Linux flavors. Okay, here it all started with Unix. In the 1960s, the Multics system was being developed by three major organizations in the United States of America: the AT&T Bell Labs, GE, and MIT. So the purpose of the Multics project is to develop a multi-user time-sharing system. The objective, I can say, for the Multics project. So I forgot to mention this. So the Unix operating system was not initially developed with the name of Unix. It all started with this project. In the 1960s, the Multics system was being developed by AT&T Bell Labs, GE, and MIT. The objective of this project is to develop a multi-user time-sharing system. So multiple users should be able to log into the system and work with the system at the same time. And with respect to the resources in the system, like main memory, processor, they should be allocated to different users' processes in a time-sharing basis. So that is the objective of this particular multi-system development, which was being taken care of by AT&T Bell Labs, GE, and MIT. Now, there was a lot of delay in the development of the Multics system. There was a lot of delay in the development of Multics system, and due to this, the development of this system was stopped at an advanced stage of the development. Now, this is what happened with the Multics project, or the Multics system development project, on which the three major organizations in the United States of America were collaborating: AT&T Bell Labs, GE, and MIT. At this point in time, what happened was this: Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, who were working with AT&T Bell Labs at that time, and also they were working with the Multics system development project. What they did was they took their personal time and I'll repeat this. Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, who were working with AT&T Bell Labs and were members of the Multics system development project, they took their personal time and used a spare system at AT&T Bell Labs called PDP-7 to continue the development and completed the project. And they called this completed project as Unix. So this is how the term Unix was introduced, and the Unix operating system was developed completely by they continued the development of Multics. I'll repeat this. Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson continued the development of Multics in their personal time, and they completed the development, and they called the completed project as Unix. Now, the initial development of Unix was done by Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson in the assembly language for PDP-7. So here, PDP stands for Programmable Data Processor, and it is the name of the computer from Digital Equipment Corporation. This initial development of Unix was done in the assembly language for PDP-7. So this is the status of the development of Unix. The initial development of Unix has been done in the assembly language for PDP-7, and please note that, and the assembly language is specific to a hardware platform. So the assembly language for PDP-7 is very much specific to PDP-7. Now, on the completion of the development of Unix, when Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson demonstrated the Unix operating system to the AT&T Bell Labs management, the AT&T Bell Labs management, they were very impressed. So I'll say this here. They were very much impressed with the Unix operating system. The AT&T Bell Labs management were very much impressed with the Unix operating system. I'll repeat this again. The AT&T Bell Labs management were very much impressed with the Unix operating system, and they asked Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson to develop Unix for PDP-11, which was the more modern hardware at that time. Okay, that's what happened. Now, here is a challenge. In case the Unix operating system now needs to be written in the assembly language for PDP-11, it has to be done from the beginning onwards, okay? Because assembly language is very much specific to a hardware platform. In case the Unix operating system needs to be developed in the assembly language for PDP 11, it has to be done from the start, since the assembly language is very much specific to a hardware platform. Now, in order to overcome this challenge, what Dennis Ritchie did was, Dennis Ritchie first developed the C programming language. Let me write that here. Okay, I'll say this. In order to take care of this, Dennis Ritchie first developed the C programming language, and the Unix operating system was written in the C programming language for PDP 11. With this, the Unix operating system became portable, because now it is written in a high-level programming language called C programming language. Now, the Unix operating system is a very good operating system. However, AT&T Bell Labs could not sell Unix operating system commercially at that point in time, since according to the US government regulations at that point in time, AT&T cannot sell computer software commercially, since they are a telecom services company. Right, so I'll write that here. Now, since AT&T Bell Labs cannot sell Unix operating system commercially, what they did was, AT&T Bell Labs licensed the Unix operating system to many different universities for their educational or academic purposes, since AT&T, since according to the US government regulations at that point in time, AT&T cannot sell computer software commercially, due to the reason that AT&T is a telecom services company. Okay, so the very first Unix that has been developed at the AT&T Bell Labs, and at this point in time we only have AT&T Unix. Now, among the many different universities who got the license from AT&T Bell Labs for Unix operating system, one such university called the University of California at Berkeley added a lot of features to the Unix operating system, and they came out with their own variant of Unix, called BSD Unix, which stands for Berkeley Software Distribution Unix. At this point in time, there are, this is in the early 1970s. At this point in time, there are two major, there are two variants of Unix. I'll repeat this. At this point in time, this is in the 1970s, there are two variants of Unix, which are the first one, AT&T Unix and BSD Unix. So please note that I am using the term variant here because there are only two variants of Unix, which are AT&T Unix and BSD Unix. All right. Now, the major computer manufacturing companies, they started developing their own Unix flavors. Okay, now I have started using the term flavor. Please notice that. Now, here it is. The major computer manufacturing companies developed their own Unix flavor. For example, AIX is a Unix flavor developed by IBM. Sun Microsystems. Okay, before I mention Sun Microsystems, let me mention about HP UX. HP UX is a Unix flavor developed by HP. Then Sun Microsystems developed Sun OS, which was later renamed as Solaris. Oracle acquired Sun Microsystems in the year 2010. So it is now Oracle Solaris. Now, please note that these are Unix flavors. So I am trying to make you understand what are Unix flavors. Okay. Now, AIX is a Unix flavor developed by IBM. HP UX is a Unix flavor developed by HP. Sun Microsystems developed initially Sun OS that got later renamed as Solaris. And with the acquisition of Sun Microsystems by Oracle in the year 2010, it has become Oracle Solaris. Now, all these Unix flavors IBM AIX, Oracle Solaris, HP UX have been developed based on either AT&T Unix or BSD Unix. So one of these two variants, AT&T Unix or BSD Unix, is the base for these different Unix flavors like IBM AIX, Oracle Solaris, and then HP UX. All right, and also one more important point that I want to mention here is that IBM AIX and these Unix flavors are closed source and proprietary operating systems. That is, IBM will not share the source code for AIX with anyone else. Oracle will not share the source code for Solaris with anyone else. HP will not share the source code for HP UX with anyone else. That is why these are closed source and proprietary operating systems. Now, earlier, if you remember, I mentioned that these flavors like IBM AIX, Oracle Solaris, HP UX, they were developed based on either AT&T Unix or BSD Unix. So just to provide you with an example, Oracle Solaris was initially developed based on BSD Unix, and later Sun Microsystems switched to AT&T Unix as the base for their Solaris operating system. So I think that point is very clear for you. Now let's continue with the reason why these major computer manufacturing companies like IBM, then HP, and also Sun Microsystems showed interest in developing their own Unix flavor. So here it is, people. I'll write like this. I will write in a separate notepad for this. Okay. So here it is. I hope you have heard about the mainframe systems. So the mainframe systems are popular from the 1960s. These are very powerful systems. They provide very huge amount of processing power. They can handle extremely large amount of data, and at the same time they can run non-stop. So that is what happened with the mainframe systems that were introduced in the 1960s. So the popular mainframe systems are IBM mainframe, and then there is the tandem mainframe. Now the mainframe systems, with all that power that they provide, they also are very much expensive, because the IBM mainframe or tandem mainframe system, these kind of mainframe systems are very powerful systems. They can handle huge amount of data, they have huge processing power, and also they can run non-stop. So these kind of solutions like mainframe systems like IBM mainframe and tandem mainframe, they are very good solutions for large organizations like a bank with a global presence or a insurance company with a global presence, who need all this power provided by the mainframe systems. Now, if I am a small size organization or a medium sized company, I do not require this kind of extremely powerful solution like a mainframe, which is also very much expensive. So mainframe systems, while they are powerful, they are very much expensive also. So they are very much suitable for large organizations who need all that power provided by the mainframe systems. Now, for small size organizations and medium size organizations, they need the hardware which is stable and also provides the required amount of capacity in the form of processor and the memory resources to take care of the work or to take care of the workload uh, that is required to be processed by small size organizations and medium size organizations. So this is where the different computer manufacturers they started developing something called as mid-range hardware. Mid-range hardware. So if you notice, IBM have their own mainframe system, the IBM mainframe. IBM who have their own mainframe system for large organizations, they also developed the mid-range hardware called Power Series. The mid-range hardware will not be so much powerful like a mainframe. However, it is providing the required capacity in terms of main memory, the processor power, and the ability to run non-stop. And these mid-range hardware are much less expensive. They are very much less expensive when compared to mainframe systems. Even though mid-range hardware will not be so much powerful like the mainframe system. However, the mid-range hardware provides solution which is sufficient for small size organizations and medium size organizations. IBM came out with IBM Power Series, and in this I'll repeat this. And AIX is the operating system used in this IBM Power Series hardware. And initially Sun Microsystems, and now it is called Oracle Solaris. And in fact, initially Sun Microsystem, I'll repeat this. Initially, Sun Microsystems developed something called as Spark hardware, which is the mid-range hardware, and now it is the Oracle Spark series hardware. With the acquisition of Sun Microsystems by Oracle in the year 2010, it is now Oracle Spark series hardware. Solaris is the operating system which is popularly used in this Oracle Spark hardware. Okay, I hope you understand the reason for the major computer manufacturing companies to show interest in Unix. The reason why the major computer manufacturing companies developed their own Unix flavors. I hope you understand the reason for that now. All right. Now, this is about the development of the different Unix flavors, people. I hope you now clearly understand this now. I'll write a little bit here. So, in terms of Unix flavors, we have many Unix flavors. Some of the popular ones I am going to write here. And now I hope you understand the term Unix flavor very clearly. So, in the Unix flavors category, we have IBM AIX, then we have Oracle Solaris, then we have HP UX, and there are many others also. I'll write like that. So, this is about the Unix flavors, I will say. Okay, now we are done with the Unix flavors portion, and let's now look at the evolution of the Linux operating system. Okay, let's start with that now. So I'm going to continue writing here in this notepad document. All right, now how the Linux operating system evolved. Okay, it all started like this. In the 1980s, Richard Stallman started the GNU project. It is written GNU and pronounced GNU. In the 1980s, Richard Stallman started the GNU project, and the objective of this project is to develop a free Unix-like operating system. In fact, GNU itself is a recursive acronym. Standing for GNU is not Unix. Okay. Now, what happened at this point in time was the GNU project developed a lot of programs. However, they needed a kernel. Okay, what is the kernel? I'll briefly mention here, people. The kernel is the overall resource manager in a computer system, and here the GNU project developed a lot of programs. However, they needed a kernel that is ready for real time production use. Okay. Now what happened was Linus Torvalds developed the Linux operating system in the year 1991 and Linus Torvalds offered the Linux kernel to the GNU project. This way, the last gap was filled in the GNU project, that was requiring a kernel that is ready for real-time production use. All right, people. Now, I hope you understand about how the GNU I'll rephrase this. I hope now you understand how the GNU Linux has been introduced to the world. Okay. Now, the next point that I want to highlight is something called as the mainline Linux kernel. So what is this? I will write here like this. Linux is a open source operating system. Okay. Linux is a open source operating system, and the mainline Linux kernel, I'll write this. The mainline Linux kernel is maintained by a team led by Linus Torvalds, who release who come out with updated release of the mainline Linux kernel with an approximate frequency of 3 to 6 months. So every 3 to 6 months, the mainline Linux kernel will be updated and released. And the source code for the mainline Linux kernel is available in case anyone wants to use it and develop their own flavor of Linux. Okay, I'll come to that soon, people. What is a Linux flavor? Okay. Now, the mainline Linux kernel development will be a continuous process. The mainline Linux kernel development will be a continuous process since with new hardware being introduced, the new hardware provides performance improvements and the mainline Linux kernel needs to be updated to take advantage of the performance improvements provided by the new hardware. So that's to briefly mention about the mainline Linux kernel. Now I'm going to tell you about the Linux distribution or Linux distro or Linux flavor. So now I am coming to the topic of Linux flavors, how they evolved. Okay, so let me write this here. What is a Linux distribution or Linux distro? A Linux distribution is also called Linux distro or Linux flavor. Okay, it is like this, people. Okay, the answer to this question is like this. So what happens is a Linux distribution or Linux distro or Linux flavor is something like this. It is the mainline Linux kernel, which is the base for every Linux flavor. So you take any Linux flavor, the mainline Linux kernel will be the base for any Linux flavor. And what every Linux flavor does is, in addition to the mainline Linux kernel, it will also provide a lot of additional programs. So that is what I am going to write here. A Linux flavor is equal to mainline Linux kernel plus a lot of additional programs. Now, the mainline Linux kernel is the base for every Linux flavor, and how every Linux flavor will distinguish itself, it is through these additional programs. like every Linux flavor can distinguish itself with providing a unique graphical user interface of their own. They may provide a very good calculator program and so on. So these kind of additional programs will distinguish every Linux flavor. So please note that every Linux flavor is using the mainline Linux kernel as the base and provides a lot of additional programs. Okay, this is the combination. The mainline Linux kernel plus a lot of additional programs form a Linux distribution or Linux distro or Linux flavor. All right, people, I hope you understand. All right, I hope you understand this very clearly. Now, if you want to see what are the different Linux flavors that we have, you can just visit this particular website. I will just do that in my machine. So here, please use any web browser and please navigate to this page, Distro Watch. Okay, please search for Distro Watch, and when you search for Distro Watch, when you navigate to this page for distrowatch.com, and please look at the right hand side here, you can see in this portion the top 100 most popular Linux distributions based on the number of downloads that has been done for these different Linux distributions. Okay, so these are the top most popular 100 Linux distributions. There are many more than this, so we have much more than 100 Linux distributions, people. I remember reading somewhere that it is around 600 Linux distributions that we have. Okay, however, in this page you can see the most popular 100, top 100 Linux distributions. All right, now when I say Linux distribution, I also mean it is a Linux flavor. Okay, so a Linux distribution is also called Linux distro or Linux flavor. Now, one more important point that I want to mention before I conclude this long video, everyone. Okay, I will now mention like this. Okay, interestingly, you have a major advantage now when you learn about the Linux and Unix command line, and let me tell you why I say that. Okay, it is like this. The fundamental set of commands in every Unix flavor and every Linux flavor will be the same. Since every Unix flavor and every Linux flavor adhere to the single Unix specification guidelines. So that's a major advantage, people. So in this particular playlist, all the Unix commands and features that you are going to learn, you can learn with any Unix flavor or any Linux flavor, and that knowledge can be used in every Unix flavor and in every Linux flavor, which is a major advantage, I will say, because you just need to learn about these fundamental set of commands with any Unix flavor or any Linux flavor of your choice, and this knowledge you can use in every Unix flavor and in every Linux flavor. And that's going to be a very good advantage for you when you start with a career in the Unix and Linux systems. All right, people. Now, regarding the Linux flavors, let me list some of the popular ones. Okay, so I already have listed some of the popular Unix flavors here. I am now going to write a little bit about the different popular Linux flavors. So in the Linux flavors category, we have Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is the most popular one in the enterprise segment, followed by Oracle Linux. Then we have, it is written SUSE like this, however pronounced SUSE Linux. Then we have CentOS Linux, which is a free version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Then there are many more, people. Okay, so here among these Linux flavors that I have listed, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, then Oracle Linux, then SUSE Linux, these are very popular in the enterprise segment. Then there are many other Linux distributions also, like Fedora Linux, Ubuntu Linux, and many more. Now, I hope you clearly understand about the Unix flavors and Linux flavors. I will conclude this presentation now, and please subscribe to this channel and share this channel if you find that the content in this channel is useful to you in learning about Linux related topics. Thank you.